Jay?
No.
Oh my God, Dad?
My name is Barry Allen. Hello, John.
Do I know you?
You're not wearing your ring. Things must be different here.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Elseworlds Episode 2 video. So many Easter eggs, obviously focusing more on the Batman characters inside the DC universe with a really big Green Lantern bomb. That was actually a pretty fun surprise, paying off a big fan question from a long time ago on Arrow. We're doing a new round of that Flash Ring giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite moment on the video. So top 10 WTF and all the comic book Easter eggs, starting with number 10. Barry's Elseworlds intro. I love the way they play this like he's been Arrow all this time. Like they do it before the recap of Elseworlds, like he just got out of prison, just got in that big fight with Diaz. They did not do that for the first episode of the crossover with Stephen Amell. Like he just wakes up and is like, what? What the hell's going on? So this time they're playing it like Barry has been Green Arrow for the last 7 seasons. 9. Jericho is the new Deathstroke, so they don't explain whether or not this is a consequence of Deegan changing reality the first time, or if this would have happened anyway. But if you haven't been watching Arrow for the last couple of seasons, Jericho was introduced last season on Arrow during season 6 when they had a 2-part Deathstroke episode. But because he's wearing the original Deathstroke costume, I'm assuming that he's taken the mantle from his father. They come back to Argus. There's a really funny moment where Diggle recites all the biggest plot twists from the earlier crossovers going back to the first one. I guess I shouldn't be surprised now with all the crazy stuff we've been through all these separate years. They pay off the funny wife swap moment with Felicity this time because now Barry is technically married to her and they have like this awkward conversation. It's a bit of a carryover from the Arrow plot this season, but probably one of the funniest ones. Number 8, Oliver doesn't think that Batman is real. Batman is a myth created by the Gotham City Police Department. Of course, Barry, who loves comic book heroes as a child, would think that Batman was real. They go to Gotham on the rooftop. They shot this in Chicago in real life. So Stephen Amell was saying that they got to go to a brand new city that he's never filmed in before. So Chicago was where they filmed the Dark Knight trilogy. So I don't know if they're going to continue to try and film there for the Batwoman TV show or if they're going to film that in Vancouver. I would assume that they would try to film it in a different city so that it looks different from Central City or Star City. But they're not supposed to film the pilot for the Batwoman show till April. So we probably won't find out about that for a while. They make a whole bunch of jokes about Oliver getting so much tail in the early seasons of Arrow. Barry says one time he cheated on his girlfriend with her sister, talking about Laura and Sarah Lance. So even though they weren't part of the crossover, there were a lot of references to some of those characters. Like when they get thrown in jail, they try to call the district attorney Black Siren, and she says to just let them rot in jail for the night. 7, this is actually a big one, tying a couple big DC movie Easter eggs to the Arrowverse. So they find the bat signal and they're near a Wayne Enterprises building where Bruce Wayne's main company used to be. But here's the thing though, the logo on the Wayne Enterprises building is the logo from the Dark Knight trilogy. So it's like they're trying to say with a couple different Easter eggs that their version of Earth 1 Batman is the Christian Bale Batman, which I think is a solid bet in terms of how old he would be at this point and how old Kate Kane Batwoman is and all these other characters. But they start this running joke where Barry starts to taunt Oliver with how awesome he thinks that Batman is, because Oliver still wants to believe like he's the first vigilante. When he says that too, that's more of a joke about how Arrow was the first show, and that's why we call it the Arrowverse, because all the other shows are spin-offs of Arrow technically. And they do finally explain where he's been and what's been going on in Gotham. Like they call it basically a trash pile. Like, don't come to Gotham, it is the worst place ever. Number 6, Oliver explains what happened to the Batman. So Oliver says Bruce Wayne left Gotham 3 years ago very publicly, no one knows why, and he hasn't been seen since. And when he left, the Wayne Enterprises board got sucked into a bunch of get-rich-quick schemes, and everything went to shit on a corporate level and with the city's infrastructure. So if you think that crime and everything in Star City is bad this season, it's way worse in Gotham. Since Batman left, things have just gone to complete shit, which provides the really compelling reason for Batwoman to be so active. And she does kind of explain what she's doing, and a lot of that will be paid off during the Batwoman TV show. So there are a lot of setups and previews for characters that'll appear during that. But Batwoman introduces herself, Kate Kane, everything that she says about her character, like I'm Bruce Wayne's cousin, that's all right out of the comics, so they're being very authentic to that. She and Kara even have a bonding moment over having cousins that are way more famous than them. So Batwoman's more famous cousin that everybody loves way more is Batman. Supergirl's way more famous cousin that everybody loves more is Superman. There were a couple world's finest comic book references for Batman Superman. I'm assuming that because even though she's on Earth 1, Batwoman will cross over more with Supergirl than she will with the other shows in the future. But a lot of that just depends on how long each of the shows stays on the air. But because she's on Earth 1, it's a lot easier for her to cross over with Oliver and Barry. So we'll just see what ends up happening with that. There was a really cool Easter egg when Kara is talking to her. She pulls out the bust of Shakespeare, the Bard himself, and that's an Easter egg for the Batman 1966 Adam West TV series. It's basically the secret entrance to the Batcave, but the bust was inside Wayne Manor on the Adam West TV series, so it shows up in his office here. They have a really funny moment trying to break into Arkham Asylum using Killer Frost. Oh, she's crazy, she freezes stuff. Oh yeah, we have a couple of those in here. Just making a reference to Mr. Freeze, which they paid off later in the episode with a couple different Easter eggs. But number 5, all the big Batman villains in Arkham Asylum. So if you slowed down the frames or you replayed the scene, you could see all the nameplates on the prison cells. It's the Penguin, then Poison Ivy, then the Basil Karlo Clayface, the Riddler, like he says, what's blue and green and red all over. Then the last cell is actually pretty meta because it's Mark Guggenheim, former showrunner on Arrow, and the person that I think wrote most of the crossover episodes. I don't know if he wrote every single episode of the crossover, but he definitely had a big hand in them. The person that says the inmates are finally running the asylum and puts the gold mask on is Psycho Pirate, who then gets taken down by Batwoman. He'll probably come back around at the end, probably some post-credit scene tag, because he's a really important figure for Crisis on Infinite Earths. Batwoman showing up to try and stop the prison break is a good example of what her abilities and what her technology is going to look like, the way her batarang works on her spin-off show. But like I said, they were teasing characters that would show up on her show. Pretty much any big Batman villain that you saw referenced during this episode is probably fair game for her TV show, because right now the Gotham TV show, which has most of those characters, is going off the air after next season. Like they're doing their final run, and then I'm assuming that they're going to get all those characters inside the Arrowverse. But like she says that she has a person that used to work with Wayne in the R&D department that's still there. Like she's making a Lucius Fox reference, but I don't actually think that it's him. I think that it's a different character that's rumored for her TV show that'll wind up being the comic book Batwing character. So yes, there will be other Bat family members on the Batwoman TV show, but I think that Batwing is supposed to be the next big one because 2 of the Robins, and maybe 3 eventually, are on the Titans TV show, and technically that's in a different universe. We also get to meet Nora Freeze, who breaks out of her cold storage device. Like, it just basically shuts down, so she starts freaking out trying to find a way to reactivate it because of her degenerative condition. When she's wrestling through that supply room, when Killer Frost walks in, you see the Bane mask from Dark Knight Rises. Like I said, they're trying to canonize the events of the Dark Knight trilogy in Christian Bale's Batman to the Arrowverse. She finally grabs her husband's, Mr. Freeze's, ice gun, but here's the thing, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger's ice gun from Batman and Robin, so it's kind of a funny Easter egg because the minute you recognize it, all you can think about is all the crazy puns from that movie. Most of you also probably recognize that Nora Freeze is being played by Stephen Amell's wife in real life. But the funny thing is that the way they get rid of her is that Stephen Amell's Flash runs up and throws lightning at her. So it's Stephen Amell throwing lightning at his wife in real life. Number 4, though, Oliver accidentally knocks over a bunch of fear toxin canisters, and they start fighting each other, Barry and Oliver, but they're hallucinating each other as each other's worst enemies. So Barry is fighting Merlin because he has Oliver's life, so he's fighting Oliver's worst villain, and it's the same for Oliver, who has to fight the Reverse Flash. And they use it as a way to give them some common ground, like, oh, I understand some of the things that you've gone through in your life. Number 3, this is a really awesome one. 90s Barry Allen finally breaches through completely and explains everything, but also lets us know that Earth 90 Diggle is John Stewart, or a version of John Stewart, part of the Green Lantern Corps. So if you haven't been watching Arrow or you haven't been part of the fandom since way back in season 1, that was one of the earliest things that fans wonder. Would Diggle be able to become a Green Lantern at some point? Because everybody wondered if he would get a superhero persona, and it was before they gave him that weird helmet and the Guardian persona. But of course, because Green Lantern is a really big movie franchise, Warner Brothers would never let the Arrowverse use any big Green Lantern stuff. Just Easter egg level level at best. Like way back in Season 4, we got the Hal Jordan name tag on screen for a couple frames. That in Carol Ferris's airfield in Central City is the closest we've ever gotten to actual Green Lantern in the Arrowverse. So even though the ones that we know about are only in Earth 90, that means that there are corresponding ones in our Earth 1 universe. Hopefully someday we'll be able to see some of them on screen. But the way that 90s Barry Allen explains what the book is all about and what the Monitor is doing is that he's testing different realities, trying to find one that's strong enough to stand against an even greater threat, which is a reference to the Anti-Monitor for Crisis on Infinite Earths in the comics. So as suspected, most of you probably guessed that this is what's going on because the Monitor is actually a hero in the comics. So he gives the book back to Deegan. In number 1, he changes reality a second time. This time, Barry and Oliver are the Trigger Twins, which is a really deep-cut comic book team, but they don't have their powers, and the Central City Police catch them, and the police officers just happen to be Jericho, Malcolm Merlin, and Ricardo Diaz to take them in. And even though they get away, we finally meet Black Suit Superman. We only get a little teaser for him, but he seems like a completely separate character from our normal Earth 38 Superman, because we see both of them fighting each other during Part 3, which will air tomorrow night. So everybody, let me know in the comments what was your favorite moment and your favorite Easter egg. My Part 3 video will post tomorrow night. Click here for all my Elseworlds Easter eggs so far, and click here for my brand new Spider-Man Far From Home teaser breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.